Peace to the saints. Today we are going through a critical topic, which is investing, that is, creating passive income. And one thing I really pride myself on doing is providing you opportunities that are accessible. Cash App is providing the ability for you to be a novice stock investor. And so I'll take you through two things, which one will be how you can invest using Cash App, what the features of Cash App are versus traditional investing platforms. And then we'll talk specifically about some companies. So I think that will be very beneficial. And if people support this stream, then I'll make sure that I do this every week. And I'm actually investing real money as I go through because it is no good use of my time to look at a stock and find it to be appealing and not drop a few coins in. So I've actually already set up a few trades, and I'll take you through this PowerPoint presentation that I have up currently. So we're talking about how to buy stock via Cash App, and we're also talking about particular stocks. So our learning targets for today, number one, that you should be able to navigate purchasing stock via Cash App. And then secondly, that you should have some basic strategy for considering a stock. When I say basic strategy, there are an infinite number of ways to decide if a company or a stock is worth buying. You see, there can be many charts that you consult, many experts and analysts, but I'm going to give you some basic rules of thumb and some perspective on how to think about stock, businesses, and make relatively quick decisions to make some buys that'll help you out potentially in the short term and most definitely in the long term. If you've been following me for some time, you may recall I made some recommendations for purchasing cryptocurrency at some key points, which would have made you by now like 1,000% return. So let's get to it. I also want to acknowledge Ivan for showing report. He writes, hopefully many others do as well. I would love to get this game weekly. Indeed. And what I'm helping you build right now is you're working with me in building a habit for your own financial future and financial success. You see, if you make a habit of purchasing stocks weekly, even if you're purchasing a small amount, maybe not as much as I'm purchasing, maybe more if you're well off, then you will find that over time, you have planted a money tree that will grow, because over time, the stock market always performs. And what we will be doing is creating a diverse portfolio. And certainly we'll be a touch heavier on the technology side of things because that's more bleeding edge and you'll get higher returns. So we now have our learning targets. My personal goal during this session is to make as much money as quickly as possible through using volatility. My goal is always to make as much money as quickly as possible. And when I say volatility, what I'm referring to is the price in a stock doing this very quickly. Now, let us first consider why anyone would even use Cash App for investing. First reason you would use Cash App is because it's easy. Traditionally, you might use Ameritrade or something like that, or use an actual stockbroker. And these platforms might have fees for trading stock. They're very complex. They're not user friendly, especially for a novice who've never traded before, as there are many different types of trades that you can execute. You can execute a market trade, which will execute immediately. You can execute trades that will execute when the stock price is at a certain amount. You can do short positions. You can use margins. Do margin trading and all kinds of things. So this is very simple for someone who is new to buying stock, which is buying a piece of a company. So that's one of the major reasons you would use a platform like Cash App. Secondly, there is no commission, meaning that when you're buying and selling your stock, you won't be incurring a fee, whether it be $1 fee or $7 per trade. And those fees really cut into profits quickly, especially if you're trading regularly, which will be trading perhaps weekly, but not day trading. You're also able to do what's called fractional share investing. And this is really good because, for example, if you wanted to purchase Amazon today, well, a single share of Amazon is more than $3,000. So if you purchased a share or 2 shares of Amazon, you'd have to spend $6,000. Whereas on Cash App, you can spend as little as $1 and purchase a fraction of a share, some percentage of a share, which makes it really convenient for those who perhaps have less to spend or just don't want to spend as much. And then the last piece is that it's Cash App integrated. So you don't necessarily have to even connect your bank. If you have money in your Cash App, you have money to spend on stock. And even better than that, you can even send stock to friends just as you would send money to friends or family via Cash App. So I want you to consider these stocks first. When you download the Cash App, it'll show you what are called the biggest daily movers. These are all of the uh, companies or stocks that are losing a lot of value or gaining a lot of value in the last 24 hours. That's why they're called daily biggest daily movers. And the reason we're looking at this is because there's a lot of volatility. And we like volatility because that means we might have an opportunity for buying a valuable stock at a very low price, or we might be able to take a short position, which is to say there's a stock that's overvalued and we want to bet that it's going to decline in value, because not only can you make money from a stock going up, you can also make money from a stock going down in value. One thing I want you to know, Cash App only allows you to make money on a stock increasing in value. So we're not really going to talk about stocks that are overvalued and decline, because we cannot utilize that via Cash App. So we're really going to hyper focus on the stocks that are undervalued, meaning they've rapidly dropped price for some reason that we don't think is legitimate. And we believe that in the short term and definitely in the long term, the price will rebound. So these are all of the companies or stocks that have significantly changed in value in the last 24 hours. And the nice thing is, on Cash App, the interface will show you a listing of these companies every day. Supreme Seon writes, submitting tuition to Pimp Bayless. A great man named Lou writes, hey, thank you for doing this, by the way, Marquette. Literally just saw a couple that was so happy to share crypto info with me. I know, right? Isn't it funny? Yeah, I hear so many crypto millionaires on the internet, but when I'm out in places that are expensive to be, I never see them there. Steven writes, Peace of the Saints, became a boss on the website today. Ready to soak up all the premium game. Thank you for your time. Well, thank you for the support, Saint. And all of these folks should thank you as well, because you're supporting their education. On to the next slide. Actually, let's go back real quick. I just want to point out very quickly, you'll see some companies on here that you're familiar with, maybe Bumble. It says that Bumble declined in what percent?
16.56.
Okay, so Bumble's declined by 16.56% in the last day or so. So that's a significant decline in value, something you'd wonder why that occurred. So Bumble's a company you probably recognize because it's a dating app. A lot of these companies I recognize for different reasons. For example, Cloudflare and MongoDB are both tech companies that I recognize. I've utilized their technologies on the creator side as well as the consumer side. Further, if you look at GoGo, this is an airline internet company essentially, and I've utilized their technology all the time. It's absolutely critical, and they really have a bit of a monopoly in some ways. I think the telco companies will eventually compete with them, but they're in really good shape. So these are companies I recognize. Now, when I look at this listing of the companies who have had the greatest losses and gains over the last day, I always want to hyper focus on the company that had the biggest losses. That's the one I want to start off with first. Just a heads up, by the way. Stephen writes, okay, we actually hit that one. Adam writes, peace, Marquette, much love from Sweden as always. Good to talk to the Saints from Sweden. Just had a consultation with one of the other Saints in Sweden.
They'll be in Las Vegas.
Indeed. Actually, we need to list both of their tickets because they may not be able to come out from Europe.
Oh, okay.
Yes, due to political events. War, you might call it. Going on to the next slide. So let's look at a company. The first company I'm looking at is called Grab. Now, here's a summary of what this company is about. Grab, commonly known as, or Grab Holdings is the name of the corporation. Grab is what they do business as. It's a Southeast Asian technology company headquartered in Singapore and in Indonesia. Number one, you can only be headquartered really in one place, right? In addition to transportation, the company offers food delivery and digital payment services via a mobile app. I like the sound of this because when you have a headquarter in Singapore, I know that you're a legitimate company. They do good business there. So that's a good start. It's founded in 2012, which lets me know that it's a long-standing company. I would hope that it's currently profitable. And I'm looking at number of employees at 6,000. I know that it's a legitimate institution. So far, the surface of things looks good for this business. Next slide, please. One thing you always want to do, especially when you're investing for quick returns and you're seeing a company that has experienced volatility, meaning a significant loss in value very quickly, you have to look at the news. News. Grab has racked up losses since its founding. What? That doesn't sound good. Basically, it was founded in 2012, which is 20 years ago, right? Or excuse me, 10 years
10.
ago. So that's a decade. It says since its founding, it's been losing money. That does not sound like a good company I would be impressed with. And writes, and has yet to prove it can reach profitability. Its fortune has ebbed and flowed along with COVID-19 infection rates and restrictions. Now, one thing I like about COVID-19 is that it can make some companies on paper appear to have less value than they actually do, which means that their stock price will decline, even though the company could be fundamentally strong. In all of 2021, its loss widened to 3.4 billion from 2.6 billion. Now, when your losses are in the billion-dollar range, that is tremendous. Wow. So I'm a little bit anxious about this company as of now. Based on this information, I'm anxious about this company. And it says the sum of transactions across its platforms totaled 16.1 billion compared with its projection of 15 billion to 15.5 billion. So what I like about this company on the positive side is that they projected that they would earn less money than they actually earned. So they did better than they projected. And if you're a business person and if you've been observing the stock market over time, what you'll notice is that consistently executives, they tend to overestimate so that they can impress the investors, or they overestimate because they're very optimistic persons. And that is not good. So what I see here is that these folks are being conservative, and I like that. That signals that they have a strong company and maybe even stronger than even they estimated. So I like this. Let's go on. So the way I'm looking at this is that it's a long-term investment opportunity. You might say, Marquette, that's really strange. Why would you look at this as a long-term investment opportunity if they've been losing money for 10 years? Well, I looked at their investors, and they have some major investors that I'm familiar with. And even one of their investors had a business model similar to theirs, wherein they lost significant amounts of money, but they were able to eventually become profitable. And all of those losses were calculated into the business model. So what I believe with this company Grab is because it's so big, because it's backed by Singapore, they have great investors. They're kind of too big to fail. So the investors are going to continue pumping money into this thing. And I think it will be able to survive and thrive. So it's a long-term investment opportunity. It will not return you quick money, but in time, it'll do well. I look at this as an Uber kind of a situation. And if I recall correctly, someone in the chat let me know, I think Uber has invested in this company. I also think SoftBank might have, but let me know. So what I did was went ahead and made a $500 investment via Cash App, and here's the receipt for that. And I did that earlier today about 4 p.m. And the neat thing about Cash App, and if we do these in the future, if you guys support this work and we do these weekly, one, you'll be able to put together an investment portfolio for yourself, and two, you'll be able to track how the investments are doing that I'm talking about. So I've actually already made $1.68. My investment has grown by 0.33% so far, which is nice. So that's my purchase, and it's just that simple. I made a market purchase. Carrying on. Now, here are two companies I mentioned that I'm familiar with: Bumble and Cloudflare. Bumble, as you know, is a dating technology. It doesn't really have anything innovative about it. It's not very fascinating, and it has not captured the popular imagination the way Tinder has, being the first mover. So I think over time, Bumble will die. I think I would take a short position, which is to basically bet that Bumble will continue to lose money. Cloudflare, as a consumer and as a technologist, I've used this technology, and I find that the technology is not very reliable. So I'm not impressed with it. So even though the fundamentals of the business might be strong, I don't believe in the product over the long term. So I would not invest into Bumble and Cloudflare. I would certainly invest against Bumble because Bumble is going to crash. One thing I want to show you, this is an image from the Cash App interface that kind of shows you some of the things you can look at in terms of graphs. You can look at a graph over the day, the week, the year, and the month, and all time to kind of see how the stock prices have trended. Cloudflare, for the year is up 54%, which is letting you know that, well, hell, if the price is up right now, would I really want to buy? Because then I'd be buying high. Buying high in as much as over the last year, it's up. Maybe over the last 24 hours, it's down. But overall, it's not really that low. So you're not getting a deal. You're not getting a steal. Further, you'll see below the buy button, you see TechCrunch. This is news. So embedded in the Cash app is news about this particular company or corporation. So it allows you to read up on it and figure out why the price may have been changing. And news is critical information for stock prices because stock prices are basically a reflection of the market psychology, meaning how buyers are thinking about this corporation and the future of it. So the news is critically important. The next company we're considering is TU Simple Holdings. And Too Simple, this one is an autonomous driving technology company. And I really like technology companies in general. I particularly like those companies that are on the bleeding edge. And I also like those companies that have to do with things that are exciting to the consumer. Autonomous vehicles are very exciting to consumers. So it's a cool thing. It has that wow factor. So immediately in terms of what they're actually doing from a business standpoint, I think is very intriguing. So they have my attention. Further, I believe they've been losing money over the last 24 hours. So that means that there's an investment opportunity here. So we're going to look a little bit more deeply. Now, I pulled up a news clipping on them, and it says that the self-driving truck company said, blah, 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 blah. Up till now, Too Simple's chief technology officer will replace. Okay, so they're firing and rehiring a CEO. So they're basically promoting the chief technology officer into the role of CTO. Personally, I don't like that from a business standpoint because the chief technology officer has a certain skill set. Though he might have managerial skills, he's a technical guy. The CEO is a business guy who probably has some tech skills. But when you're moving the CTO into the CEO role, my first question is like, okay, now who's the new CTO? That's what I really want to know. Because in a technology company, the CTO is critical. So that's my real question. Then it says shares slid 23% following the announcement. So when they said their CEO is fired, they lost a lot of value in their shares, meaning that it went significantly lower than the initial public offering share price of $40 per share. Now, consider this: an initial public offering, AKA an IPO, which is basically when a private company goes public, which is to say it's like a coming out party for a private company. It makes it into a big thing where anyone around the world can buy shares in that company. It's kind of a mark of success. So when your private company goes public, your share price is usually inflated. Why? Because people are all trying to get a piece of your company. They all want to have an opportunity to own some of it. So they're competing to buy the newly offered share. So the price is always inflated. So the price started off at $40. Now it's at 13, which is much lower. So we expect it to always be below that IPO price generally around this time, but we don't expect it to be that much lower. In short, my summary is that this is a short-term short position. When I say short-term, meaning I think in the short term, the near future, the price is going to continue to drop. I don't think this company is going to turn around in the short term because they haven't named their new chief technology officer. People are not confident that the current chief technology officer will be a good CEO, and the company was already not performing. I would not invest in this company to grow. Weave Communications is another company that we looked at. This one basically is a communications company. I think this company is going to probably go out of business according to my research. So I would say it's a long-term short position, which means that it's going to keep losing money. There is no recovery for this thing. PLTR is a public American software company that specializes in big data analytics. I think data is a good area. And it's founded by Peter Thiel, who's like a legend in Silicon Valley. So he's a very reliable guy. So not to take a deep look, but to take a surface look without looking at the news, which I've not looked at currently. I just clicked news. It says, Kathy would sell, maybe Buffett will buy. Well, if Warren Buffett's doing something, you should consider following him, but maybe is not news. So the news is basically explaining that the stock is falling. You'd have to click on one of the articles and read as to why that stock is falling. falling. In the short, I would say based on the external things, I like the data focus of the company. I like the founder of the company. So I would probably look into it as an opportunity, especially being that it's falling in price. Doesn't look like it's made significant falls. Via PayPal, Mr. Singh writes, "Peace of the Saints. Saint, what centralized exchange do you use for buying crypto?" Kraken. Le Jimmy writes, "How should you conduct yourself when you're switching jobs and you'll be the youngest among your coworkers by an age gap of 10 years? Should I assert my dominance early?" I think the number one thing is that you have to establish your competence because that is what is in question. And then secondly, you should always go and dress more formally. You know, when they're wearing, casual Friday, you're still in khakis. When they're in khakis, you're in slacks. And the key is to establish your competence and then have them offer you the leadership. Emmanuel writes, "Peace of the Saints. I've always appreciated knowledge from those who have lived it," right? There's a lot of geniuses in the comments that who've apparently made millions of dollars in stock. Little did I know. Little did I know. Here we are. So we have Viva Systems. And what I'd like to point out with Viva Systems is that one, as you can see here in this Cash App interface, it shows a couple things that are critical. Number one, that you're able to see this chart of earnings, and earnings for any corporation are important to see if it's making money. What I like about Viva is that it's showing you in quarter 2, 3, and 4 of 2021, aka last year, it's been earning money. So it's been gaining. And then you look at the analyst's opinion, and generally, I don't have much regard for what analysts say. These are people who are not very well off financially. Um, it says it's a moderate buy. So that kind of confirms some of my hunch. But it's important to know that you do have some of this critical information embedded in the Cash App. Now, here's the news, and I always like to look up the news. So this I really like. Viva Systems were sinking 16.9%. So they're losing money on their stock price, which is good. The decline came after the company announced its 2021 fourth quarter and full year results. So they shared their information publicly, which is required of public corporations, and then their stock price declined. And you might say, okay, they must have shared bad news. Well, let's see. They reported their revenue of about $500 million, which is up 22% year over year. That's a really good thing.
Million. You said billion.
Oh, I said $500 million.
Oh,
Yes, $500 million,
yeah.
which was
Sorry.
correct. So it's up 22% year over year. It posted adjusted earnings per share of blah, 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 blah. Not very relevant. Now, so why did the life sciences stock tumble? Right? Because they're increasing in revenue year over year, 22%. That's excellent. Viva provided a disappointing outlook for the first quarter, which is to say their estimate for how much their company, you can make me larger on the screen now, their estimate for how much their company would gain in the next quarter was lower than the Wall Street analysts are projecting that it should be. It's lower than the Wall Street analysts were hoping they would say. So basically, the reason the stock went down is not because of the way the company is presently performing, but because there's not a high level of optimism among the leadership. Now, what might happen is that the leadership might just be projecting conservatively or accurately, whereas these Wall Street folks are looking to see like these huge projections, these unrealistic projections. And so what I am observing is that's a great opportunity. You're looking at a situation where a company is fundamentally strong, it's growing, it has profitability, it has good product. So I went ahead and purchased $500 because I think that this is a great opportunity. Next. Another thing I want you to observe that you can do in Cash App is when you're looking at a particular stock, I'll make this one larger. I clicked follow on this one. I didn't buy this one because the metrics are not where I would like them to be. But I clicked follow because I like the technology. It's using LiDAR. You can Google this when you have some time, LIDAR. It's a kind of a imaging technology that allows for smart solutions, automation of vehicles, automation of parking garages and things like this. I'm familiar with it. I have a buddy who does LiDAR technology. So I think it's really neat. You'll see this technology used in some high end exotic and luxury cars. So I like the business, and some of the financials were off. So I just clicked follow. So you'll see that button in the middle will allow you to follow and keep up with a stock. So you can see if the price declines and you say, you know what? Price is sunk down low enough. I think it's a good buy. Snowflake is a company that let's take a look. So Snowflake, here's two screens. Number one, if you look at the all-time earnings for this stock, or excuse me, the all-time stock price, you'll notice there's a lot of volatility. It's going up and down. Doesn't really appear to be traveling in one direction. And generally, when you're going to invest in a stock for the future, you want to see some trending upward. Be nice to see a hockey stick, but you at least want to see the mountain is being climbed. And here you see a lot of, you know, unpredictability and volatility, which I don't like. This is a data company. I mean, they take information and provide insights, and data is really critical to today's world. And they provide data for a significant portion of Fortune 500 companies. So they're in bed with some really big players, which is a positive sign. However, when I looked at their financials, which you can also see from the Cash App, if you look on the screen to the right, it says annually. You look over the last, 2019, 2020, 2021, you'll see that their losses are increasing. So they lost 178 million, then they went to losing 348 million, then they went to losing
539.
$500 million. So for me, I would not invest in that company presently because all they're doing is losing money quarter after quarter. So what I would do, I might follow it, but really data companies, there are many of them. They're not very interesting to me. They're not on the bleeding edge. So this is just something I would pass on next. Now, here's the last company I want to talk to you about. There's a couple of Chinese companies that you would have found on this list of high loss companies, or high loss stocks, or high growth stocks. And there were a couple of Chinese companies, which is not surprising because often you find that there are accounting issues, there's fraud going on in Chinese-based companies. And even when I was in university, I invested in a micro engines company, and company that creates small engines, or pieces for things like toasters and kitchen appliances. And on paper, the company was phenomenal, and the stock price was really low, very affordable. So I bought a significant number of shares when I was in university in my early 20s. Actually 20. I was 20. And maybe inside of a year, this company was found out to be cooking the books, which means reporting false data. And the company essentially had their stock price go down to damn near $0, like went down like 12 cents. And this is something that you basically are risking anytime you invest in a Chinese company. Further, Chinese companies tend to have volatility not only because of natural market forces, or weather disasters such as hurricanes or wars that are unavoidable, but also the Chinese Communist Party government and the choices that they make. The political choices can affect a company very strongly. So for that reason, anytime you invest in a Chinese headquartered company, you are taking a gamble. And in the case of this company, all time, if you look on the right side, all time they've lost 72% on their stock value, meaning from their initial public offering to today, they've lost three-quarters of the value, which is a big loss. And in the last day, they've lost 14%. What I like about this graph, look at this graph in the first image, you'll see that there was a sharp decline early on in the day, and then eventually it kind of started to flatten out. When you see that flattening out, that's letting you know that the losses are kind of subsiding, meaning that it's kind of safe to buy. It's probably not going to have a sharp loss again straight away. Reason being, this is China's largest Q&A platform. It's kind of like Quora for China, where you can ask and answer questions. And even the analysts say that this is the time to buy. And I really don't care anything about what the analysts say because they're broke. But all the same, the analysts agree with me. And I thought this would be a good buy because you will get a 300%, 500% return on your money when this company gets their stuff together, if ever. So anytime you're gambling, you're putting money on a Chinese company, you're gambling. So I put down a $300 gamble on this Chinese company. And also on the earnings side of things, you'll notice that their earnings actually are starting to improve as well, which is a good sign. Go on to the next.
That's it.
Oh, that was the last slide. Okay, fantastic. So, Saints, those are the stocks that I have made investments into today. You really want to make your investments before the market closes. So, next time, if I do this again, I'll make sure that I do it earlier in the day and I'll try to make the purchases before the session so that by the time we're talking, we can see if there was any movement in terms of, my buys, if I gained any money or lost any money, hours after I made my buys. Piece of the Saints.
We have Ramsey said this is exactly or extremely timely, especially helping those who are afraid to pull the trigger.
Yes, and that's the key. What I really like about this opportunity with Cash App is that for everyday people, you can invest small amounts of money. Say I invested 300 in that last stock, you could have invested $30 or you could have invested $3. So whatever I invest, you can just take a zero off of it and invest that amount so that over time, you know that you've put your money somewhere where it can grow and you can start taking steps to financial freedom and having passive income because not everyone will be an entrepreneur or be able to run a business. But everyone can make some investments in the stock market. And if your portfolio is diversified over time, 5 years, 10 years, you'll see that it will grow and it will provide you a good nest egg.
Sua said, what's your opinion of Lucid stock? LCID.
Okay. So we see that it lost about 8% today. 8% is a nice little loss. American electric vehicle manufacturer headquartered. Okay. So I do like electric vehicles. And when you look at certain industries, you know that the government is going to support their success. So that's a good thing being in the electric vehicle industry. That's one thing. Now you do know that I am a car guy. So generally speaking, if I've not heard of a car, it might not be terribly impressive or cutting edge. This one I actually have seen before. I don't think that the consumer has been made very excited about this one. And the automotive industry is a very expensive industry to break into. And I do mean expensive. And during the start of COVID, I know a lot of top guys in the automotive industry who are losing tremendous amounts of money. And as much as that's the case, that means that some of these bigger players took some L's. So that means there's a little bit more space to operate. Things like Lucid, it says EV startup Lucid, and I'm looking at 3 days ago their news. It says EV startup Lucid slashes 2022 vehicle production forecast, causing shares to plummet. Well, I can tell you that does not give me optimism. Sometimes when a stock declines in value, that's an accurate reflection of what should be happening. So, being that they're in a highly competitive industry that's exceptionally expensive to be successful in, Tesla is really on fire and they have affordable cars that are exceptionally well made. And Lucid has not appealed very well to consumers at any level, not the luxury consumer like me, not the fast car consumer, the exotic car consumer, and not the average consumer who doesn't have a lot of money. I don't think over the long term they will be successful. So I would not invest in Lucid.
Okay, we have Average Joe sent tuition.
Piece of the Saints. Appreciate it.
We have Miles Ponder sent a cash app. He said, are you familiar with the Dow Jones?
Yes. Jay Smooth, Sense Intuition, Piece of the Saints. Someone writes, Tesla is more popular than Lucid, in my opinion. Well, popularity of a product is not an opinion. It's a matter of fact. You can look at sales data. So as a fact, Tesla has outsold Lucid. Lucid is the new kid on the block. I know you guys are getting some knowledge that you're probably saying, damn, Quet, like either I do already invest in stock or I don't, and I need to start because you've made it so simple. You have removed the barrier of entry, meaning I don't have to have $1,000 to invest. I can invest $10 and you're going to do this every week, which means that I get to consistently gain knowledge on the world around me because I'm reading the news. I get to gain knowledge on these stocks, these particular stocks. I get to gain knowledge on the stock market and the market itself and business and what's cutting edge. So I think that you're going to have some significant changes in how you see the world, how you operate in the world. And over a couple of years, you're going to have some changes in your pocketbook. And that's what's exciting to me being a part of that. So many people talk about becoming wealthy, but so few actually take the steps to do it. As I always remind you, the saints, you are of the leadership class. And so I encourage you to continue doing what others don't do, continue being more prosperous than others, continue giving more than others, continue outperforming them, because you can't say that you are the best without showing it. So always seek to be the top dog, always seek to do the most. So I commend you all for that. And we will acknowledge these final super chats, and then we will carry on to the good life.
Okay, we have Great Vibe said, thank you so much.
Peace to the saints. You're very welcome.
We have Planet Spaceman said, Facebook dropped dramatically last month. Do you think it's a good buy?
Well, let's see what it's at now. See, when you say last month, let's see if it recovered. So I'm going to take a look at Facebook real quick. So I'm going to say Facebook. It's actually, I think it's called Meta now. So we'll go to Meta. Yes, indeed. Okay, so Meta and their stock ticker. Okay, so here I'm looking at the graph for Facebook's profitability. Facebook's stock. In the last day, in the last 24 hours, they've gone down 2%. In the last 5 days, it's been not even 1% in losses. The last month, it's been 14% in losses. That's very good. The last 6 months, it's been 46% in losses. That's very good. The last year, it's been 40% in losses. This is good. This is good. In fact, you've even inspired me to take a little nibble at Facebook. You see, generally, I don't like buying more expensive companies, especially stable companies, the likes of Meta or Facebook, because I know that they're not going to have significant volatility that I would like to see. You see, they've already grown up, so to speak, but there are some good losses here. And I think that Facebook has a lot of tricks up their sleeve. So they have a lot of opportunities for growth, particularly in what they're going to do with virtual reality. So I'm about to look up Facebook on Cash App right now. And yep, I see those losses are there. Yes, indeed. So I'm going to go ahead and purchase a little bit of Facebook.
Okay, while you're doing that, we have Jay Smooth is back with another $20. He said, what do you think about Nikola? They are electric self-driving semi-truck company. No profit yet, still in R&D. No profits yet, but still cheap.
Well, when you say still in R&D, are they a public company? Did he send through the stock ticker?
He didn't.
Okay.
He said Nikola.
Okay, we'll check them. Let me go ahead and buy this little bit of Facebook real quick. And mind you, you'll see a lot of people who purport to do things that they don't really do. I'm talking to you about stock and buying stock as we speak.
I have their stock ticker. I just looked it up.
Okay, what is it?
NKLA.
NKLA. And mind you might be saying, Marquette, why didn't you read the news on Facebook? Well, Facebook is a giant. So generally when their news occurs, everyone hears about it. So I'm not going to even use my time to look at the news for $100 purchase, because to me, it's really nothing. Okay, so you said NIKLA. Excuse me, NKLA.
Yeah.
All right. So over the last day, they've lost 4%. The last 5 days, they've lost 10. Last month, they've lost 6. Last half month, they've lost 32%. Ooh, yikes. They've taken a lot of losses. They're an American manufacturer of heavy-duty commercial battery electric vehicles. Fuel cell, okay. Energy cell person. Okay. Let's see when they were founded. Founded in 2014. They have some significant time in the game. They have 900 employees. All right. Revenue, 95,000 USD. What the hell?
At the beginning of February, they lost almost their entire supply chain leadership team.
Yeah. So right now, my dear brother, it does not look like a good opportunity. So I just click news. It says stock underperforms Thursday when compared to competitors. That's not news. Okay, here's another article. It says why their stock dropped in value. Why Nikola shares dropped today. Let's see what happened. Investors are shunning electric vehicle stocks today. Investors may fear that some of what Lucid said regarding supply chain troubles will apply to others. I see. So the drop in stock may be a result not directly of this company, but of the industry or of supply chain. So that's generally a good opportunity because it's showing you that a company may be undervalued for no good reason, which presents you a buying opportunity. However, in looking at their revenue numbers, which are dismal, and especially with the age of this company, I'm not impressed, nor am I excited about them. Let's see. I don't know why Uber is telling me about Ukraine. That's ridiculous. Just got a notification from Uber about Ukraine. Like these companies do anything to get your attention. It's like really shameless. Let's see. Nikola said it hopes deliveries of its battery electric semi trucks will reach 500 vehicles in 2022. It also plans to complete validation of its hydrogen powered fuel cell trucks. Oh, wow. Yeah. So this is so early. And let you guys know it's good to get into things early, but you don't want to get in too early to where you're engaging a very high level of risk and you don't have expertise in this area of science or technology. You don't have insider information in terms of who the leadership is or any insights they can give you. And as Bridget indicated, their C suite was disrupted recently
Yeah.
and their supply chain is challenged. They're a new company in an expensive industry, and their revenue numbers are quite laughable. Like, if a business tells me they have $95,000 in revenue, that makes me like frown my face because I've made $95,000 in a month as an individual. So it's like, what is your business doing? Like, I'm out. I would probably take a short position, to be honest with you. I'd take a short position against that company, saying that they're going to tank both in the short term and the long term.
Okay, we have Suo back again. Said, have you heard of the Great Reset?
Yes, I have heard of the Great Reset.
We have Dylan back again. He said, Stream had immense value. I've been going up recently thanks to you. Riches in Babylon was a great read, and I've been applying. School has been excellent as well.
Peace to the saints. It's a very positive message, and I'm happy to hear that you're enjoying prosperity. I was talking to Kamal earlier today, one of the saints who has a consultation monthly, and he's doing well. A lot of guys are thriving right now, and when you apply good knowledge, you're going to have a better quality of life than most people.
Okay, we have Average Joe back again with tuition, and he's back again. He said, more of an options trader than long term, but I appreciate the knowledge as always.
Peace of the saints, indeed. And there are levels to things. This is something to get those folks off the bench who have not yet been in the game, and also to remind those who have maybe been in the game but forgot about the game to get back at it.
Okay, we have Prolific Pops said, hey, Marquette, there's this chick telling me that she makes about 200K investing in crypto, and she's trying to get me into it. Should I or no?
Well, you always have to ask yourself, is this person a saint or are they trying to make money off of me? When someone's really overly eager to help you, but you don't see the fruits of what they claim they're doing, you must be suspicious. I'd be suspicious of her saying that she's made 200K and invest in crypto because it's like, well, if you've done that, like go continue doing that. Why are you bothering me? What does that have to do with me? If she's not your girlfriend or your wife and she's not showing you the money, I'd be suspicious because if that was the case, I'd wonder why she was wasting time talking to me instead of, getting after more money.
Okay, we have Suo back again and said, what are your opinions on the Great Reset? So you've heard of it. Now, what's your opinion?
Yes. So I just want to present what the internet says so that everyone has a basic foundation. The Great Reset is the name of the 50th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum held in June 2020. It brought together high profile business and political leaders convened by Charles, Prince of Wales, and the WEF with the theme of rebuilding society and the economy following the COVID-19 pandemic. I think that Charles, Prince of Wales, should be an irrelevant person in world affairs because he has a title that really comes from birth. So I think it's a very clear indication that there are power holders who have not been elected who are seeking to shape society. And I think that it is fairly dangerous because we don't know who some of these persons are. And we really can't trust them because the society is always already in great disrepair, and COVID-19 was not the leading factor.
Okay, we have Dylan back again. He said, does Cash App provide the short position option as
It
well?
does not.
And I am caught up.
Fantastic. Well, Saints, it has been a pleasure to fellowship with you. Let us end this with our tradition, the Creed of the Assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you, the Creed of the Assassin. I am going to be who I truly am because I am remarkable, and I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace to the saints.